Hey everybody, it's your boy Pee back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about a manhwa that is genuinely a really good read in my opinion. Usually I don't typically, read stuff that gets axed. I know a lot of people are kind of like the same. But I'm started to get better about that. If a comic gets axed, it doesn't mean it's bad or anything like that. I know I used to have the mindset of like, oh, it got axed, well, it must be trash, right? But, honestly, this comic's actually really good. It's 139 chapters completed. As I was saying, it did end up getting axed at some point, so the 139 chapters isn't like the full story as it could have been. But, we did at least get an ending, albeit a very rushed, not really tying any plot holes together type of ending. But we at least got to say goodbye to like the four main characters. Well, the two main characters, which are these two, and like the two main side characters. We at least got to say goodbye to them in like the last couple panels of the comic, which overall for an X comic having an actual like technical ending, it was a nice change of pace. But overall, I feel like this comic genuinely does not get the love it deserves. A lot of that mainly being because the translation for it is just so horrendous. Like the translation is actually really bad. Like if I wanted to, I can just show you honestly. Um, like here, this will be an example. She's asked, who our main character is because the whole premise of this comic is a romance between these two people. They were like opposing sides. Her being like the empress of like seen as like the good and the righteous, right? And he being the demon lord of the demon world. So like she's from the human world, he's from the demon world. She's like the protector slash empress of the human world. But the as you can see, like the translation is goes along the lines of she's like, "Are you this person?" And he's like, "It is I." And she's like, "Why sacrifice so many lives?" And he just goes, bored. And it's just like there's a lot of this where it's just like there could have been a lot more than just two words or just basically like it's legible, it's understandable, it's just it's not as great as it should have been in my opinion. But what happens is they fight. As I said, they're on opposing sides, so he ends up killing her. And then after killing her, he basically thinks to himself, he's like, being this strong, you know I have no family, no friends, no relatives, no reason to really keep on living. He's like, the loneliness is what he feels the greatest. And so he goes to the human world and ends up getting married to, as you might see, you might think, like this looks exactly like the Empress. Well, she is the reincarnation of that Empress. However, so much time has passed since, the Empress's like death. He forgot what the Empress, like the enemy of his past, looked like. She reincarnates with memories of the like the demon and like her whole life. However, it doesn't ever really get explained how like she doesn't like ever put two and two together about how like, he looks kind of like the demon, but like she kind of just ignores it. But this is a romance comic. This is a comic about basically an overpowered um male lead who is overprotective of his wife, and an overpowered female lead who is also overprotective of her husband. And it is just the wholesomeness is just on a whole new level with this comic. It is ecchi. There are a lot of like fan servicey scenes. The art, as you can see, is it's fairly decent. There's like I don't want to say it's like not special or anything, but as you can see, it's you know it's it's decent looking. But yeah, you just have these wholesome moments where they like eat together. She like genuinely is in love with him, and he's genuinely in love with her. Um, they obviously don't know about like their like she doesn't know that he's extremely overpowered. He doesn't know that she's like the actual empress of because she is the current empress of the current world as well. But he thinks she's just an ordinary girl. She thinks he's an ordinary guy. And they try to live in this like ordinary home while trying to keep their like overpowered other identities separate, right? And you get this whole mix of like wholesomeness, you get the whole mix of, you know, just seeing how much they actually love each other, the funny moments of, you know, the interactions where it's like, you know, something bad happens in the city and he's like, oh no, it's not safe anymore for my wife, or you know, like she might get scared, you know, because there's bad people running around. I'm gonna go wipe them out from existence. And like she has the same thought. She's like, well, you know, there's people who are turning traitor to the empire and like coming, you know, trying to start a rebellion. She's like, I need to hurry up and put down this rebellion to keep my husband safe. So overall, I just think it is a genuinely fun, decent, nice, wholesome comic to read. As I said, the translation is probably the worst part about it. The plot itself just it's kind of just non-existent. The whole premise of the comic is just their relationship, and you know, I feel like everything is done fairly well for the 139 chapters that it has. As I said, the ending, there isn't really like an actual ending, but we did get to say, you basically just get to see the characters one last time, and I think it's just wraps up fairly well for the comic that it is. It isn't special, it doesn't try to be special, it tries to be a wholesome manhwa, and it is a wholesome manhwa. So but that's really all I wanted to talk about today, because I was genuinely, you know, enjoyed this. It's been like over 2 years that I was putting this comic off, and you know, I'm glad, I really am glad that I decided to read it after putting it off for so long. But yeah, that'll be it for this video. Leave a like, leave a sub, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.